What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 10-7 MMA show. We are back Friday, and there's a lot of news to discuss. I made a crazy video 2 nights ago when Dana White made a million announcements at once that blew open the world of mixed martial arts and fans of the UFC. And so I came home and made an emergency video talking about it, but I couldn't wait for today so we could talk about it in depth. It wasn't just me ruminating, but or me venting my own thoughts, but us having a dialogue and a discourse, because a lot of big announcements have happened, and I think people are excited. A lot of people are saying, man, this feels like the old days when they made these big announcements announcing multiple fights, multiple changes. So it was just a barrage of news, and I think overall everything is for the net positive. So anyways, Justin, before we get into the mix with all the fights, all the announcements, all the news, let me turn it over to you. We are 2 weeks away from your bare knuckle fight in Montana. Give us some updates on your training camp and how you're feeling.
Man, I tell you what, it's day to day, and that's how you deal with training camp. Like, there's days that I feel like $1,000,000 that every time I'm in a round, I'm winning the round, and there's days like I had last night where training started off really good, and I find myself sparring this really tall 6'3" amateur boxer, and man, I struggle with him so bad. I was getting so frustrated, man, just because he was able to keep me at range. I felt every time I was coming forward, he was popping with the jab, and if I was staying still, he was. I felt like he was big, although he's significantly younger than me and significantly less experienced. Like, I felt like he was big brother in me with his range by keeping just a hand out, like in front of my face, and I couldn't get around the jab. So, just like any fight camp, man, you have good days and you have bad days. As long as I show up, and again, I'm sparring with some really good guys and I'm beating a lot of good guys, and then I go with this long 6'3" amateur who's a little bit smaller, only probably like 165 pounds, 170 pounds, or I'm about 175 right now. But man, it was frustrating. My coaches were like, "Oh, you got to get around his jab." It's like, no shit, motherfucker. Like, I mean, a lot easier said than done. Every time I'm coming with a jab, he's popping with a jab, and and again, he played his range so well where he'd post, where like I come in, he'd stop my head, and instead I start moving, bang, hit it with a big cross. And I had one of my more frustrating days of sparring yesterday, but I'm an old school vet, man. I've been around for a long time. I've been fighting professionally for almost 15 years now, 78 fights. That's just the way it goes sometimes.
Now, I imagine, though, in a lot of ways, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I imagine the really rough days, the really terrible days, maybe you go back and you learn the most or you take the most, right? So there must be a net positive to those tough days, or do you not look forward to those tough days at all?
I mean, unfortunately, you just never know. You never know when those days are going to happen, man. Like I said, all week's been great. This was the first time first time, or not the first time, or the first time this week I had hard sparring, and out of my 10 rounds, I probably maybe won 7 or 8 of them, and then had maybe one close round, and I definitely lost this round to this amateur. It was frustrating, but it's all about the growth process. It's how do I come back tomorrow? Now, I'm not going to go home and think like what I could have, because honestly, man, he just was on. I mean, like, I thought I was doing everything right. I have great Mike Tyson head movements. Fucking side to side head movement, and I landed shots on him. And it's hard to say, he landed more shots. But with that being said, I have MMA gloves on, so I'm not winging shots. So with that being said, maybe I knocked him out with one of my power shots or an overhand, because I did land overhands, I did land hooks, but just the range he had, beyond frustrating. I'm gonna get better for it. A lot of people have these days and they sit and cry, and I've been that person. But I expect these days to come, and I mean, just we talk about the perseverance of the sport, getting through these days and trying to get better on the back end, and that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, and by the way, you answered a question that I was going to ask, was how do you spar? Do you spar in MMA gloves? Do you spar in boxing gloves? But that's interesting, and that makes sense to spar in MMA gloves. Okay, well, we are 2 weeks away.
I do have a hard stop at 2. I do have a hard stop at 2.
All right, so we will make sure to time everything accordingly. Celine says, "Hi guys, what's up, Celine? Welcome back." And Shoreline Shaman says, I don't know, whatever that symbol is. Hey,
that's
what's
okay.
up?
So that's like,
okay,
hey,
thanks. Okay, what's up, guys?
Show.
So we and by the way, I've got a bunch of funny comments that we're going to share as well. I made another video last night. I don't know if you had a chance to see it yet, about Ariel interviewing Drickus and that whole drama. And I got some crazy comments on that video. So we're going to have fun reading some of those comments at the end, where people are giving me a real hard time for, I don't understand the logic that some people have when they post those comments, but that'll be some of the fun of reading them. All right, let's get into the mix. We got some crazy news. First and foremost, Ilia Topuria vacates the UFC Featherweight Championship. Now, apparently, this is because he's having difficulty making the weight in general, so just doesn't want to fight at featherweight anymore. Whether or not that's the full story, or if he simply wants to finally move up and achieve a second belt in a second weight class, I don't know. But I have been hearing rumblings for a while that Ilia was having trouble making weight for whatever reason. But I think this is so interesting. And I love that he vacated it and he's just moving up full time so that the division can move on. And we're going to talk about what that means in terms of the fight that they've lined up for the vacant title, which is I'm very excited about. But first of all, what are your thoughts about Ilia moving up into 155?
I love it, man. You know, Ilia Topuria has beaten a who's who at featherweight. I mean, there's nobody really else, you know, that I really am excited about. You know, we talked about one guy who's ranked seventh, Mario Batista. He's the only guy that makes sense, and he's ranked seventh. All the other excuse me, that's the bantamweights. Excuse me, forget what I just said. But like he's beaten, Volkanovski, you know, a legend. He beat Max Holloway, legend. Like all those guys are, you know, at one point or another were talked about and argued, and still, in my opinion, the greatest featherweights of all time. There's nobody that he can face that beat those guys that makes any sense. I'm excited about this. I also heard rumor that there will be no, and again, you might know better, and maybe somebody watching will be able to fill me in a little more. I just saw it on Instagram this morning that there aren't going to be any more double champions. If
What?
you go to another weight class, you're going to be required to vacate that belt. You cannot hold two belts at all. Again, speculation. I'm not confirming that's a fact,
Let me look
but I
this
read
up.
it this morning. Look it up. That Dana White, and whether he's talking about it or he's moving in that direction, and I really like that because when you talk about Ilia Topuria having a struggle making featherweight, now he's going up to lightweight. He's going to gain more weight. He's going to gain more size. He's going to struggle more getting back to featherweight. Vacate the belt and let the other guys fight for it. I think being a two belt champ really holds up the division, and him going up to lightweight. I think it's great. I think him fighting Islam is a great matchup. I think Islam's going to be just a little too big for him. But with that being said, he has incredible striking, man. I think his striking is going to be superior to Islam's. Islam's pressure and wrestling, I think, is going to be the difference maker. But again, he goes up. He puts out. Look at Max Holloway at lightweight weight. Wow, what a stud when he fought Justin Gaethje. He filled in. He put on correct mass. He looked great. Ilia Topuria can do the same thing, and if he goes out there, he has a good chance of upsetting arguably the greatest lightweight champion of all time.
Okay, so we're going to talk. I want to talk more about him and what we think for a potential matchup because there's a lot of rumors, a lot of buzz, and it seems like it's actually not going to be Islam next, which I'm so happy about, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But going back to what you said, so I found an article. Let me show it to you guys. So this is, I guess, a quote from Diego Lopes. So this is essentially hearsay.
That's who I heard it from. Yep. Diego Lopes. That's right.
So it's essentially hearsay because he's saying that the UFC told him, apparently, that they're no longer tolerating reigning champs holding their titles while challenging in other divisions. They were very clear with us. They did not say that we're giving a chance to people that are jumping from division to division. No, if you want to go up a division, you have to leave your title vacant. That is what has been told to all the champions who are thinking of going up a division. I love this. I love this too, because it is, look, people have said this before that it's almost a gaming of the system when you can move up, keep your title, and if you lose, hey, I'm still a champ, right? And you can go back down. So it's essentially a reward with no risk. Not to say that that's always a bad situation, but as you mentioned, it holds up the title. You go out, the champion goes out, fights in another division. Imagine then if he needs 6 months, a year to recover in the worst case scenario. Now what's happening in that title is just sitting idle. So I don't like it. I like this a lot better. We don't need double champs. You do your thing at one weight class, you move up. You want to go back to that weight class later in the future, fine, but then you have to challenge again for the title. I think that makes so much sense. So I love this going forward. I think this is going to be a net positive for the UFC in general. And I think it's going to push more guys to let's get back. Somewhere along the lines, it got lost in translation that having a lot, like you mentioned all the time, Anderson Silva, all these consecutive title defenses, I think that's lost its appeal to a lot of champs or maybe to the fan base in general. Oh, so what? So you stay in there and you defend them multiple times. The real champs, the real awesome ones move up and get double champ, triple champ status. Maybe this will now change and shift the perspective back, which I believe is the correct perspective, that multiple title defenses at the same weight class is really, really something special. And people need to be aware of that. I want to know your thoughts on that, but let's move. I want to talk about Ilia's potential matchups. Now, people are saying that he might fight Charles Oliveira. I've heard also that they might match him up against Arman as well. Who would you like to see him fight if it's not going to be Islam? And I don't think it's going to be Islam because Islam's manager has said as much, that Islam does not want to fight Ilia next.
I think Sarukian is an incredible matchup because, they talk about Sarukian giving Islam just this incredible fight. Give Ilia Topuria, the legend killer, a guy that's really grown on me. Again, hasn't grown on me in the interviews. I know you like him. And
Yeah.
again, he's fine, but he doesn't like jump out. It's like, oh, he's on an interview. Like I want to tune into that interview like I do other fighters. But he has grown on me as a fighter. And
Oh,
again,
yeah.
beating two of my favorite fighters of all time, Max Holloway, man. I love Max Holloway. It's like he's one of my favorite featherweights of all time. He's so humble. He's so nice. Such a great guy. And then you have Volkanovski, and how can you not like Volkanovski? This guy went in there and not only beat both of these former champions, but knocked them both out. I'm a big Ilia Topuria fan. I would love to see him fight Sarukian. I think it's a great matchup to measure where he is at in the division.
Oh yes, we've got some exciting stuff. By the way, we had a ton of comments, so I want to highlight some of these. First of all, we have Two Smelly Fingers. I like that no more double champs holds everything up. We agree. Your boy John Mott is back with the donation. What a legend!
Let's go.
Love
Thank
you guys. Volk is
John.
the man, one of the most underrated fighters of all time, in my opinion. I mean, I think Volk gets a lot of respect now. I think he was underrated for a long time, and people didn't give him respect, especially with the controversial first defeat of Max Holloway. The third one, he definitely put a stamp on it. But I think the first and the second were a little bit more controversial. But I think now he gets a lot of respect. Thank you so much for the donation. We really appreciate it. Alex Michael just heard double. Oh, now, so Alex is apparently upset that double champs are not there anymore. Okay. We got a little back and forth going on between John and Two Smelly Fingers. Okay, wait. We don't have to highlight that. I'll double. Oh, Two Smelly Fingers says, I think John's challenging him to donate. He says, I'll donate when I get paid. Hey, no pressure. No worries. We're just happy to have you here, Two Smelly Fingers. Alex says, isn't that what interim titles are for? Yeah, but come on. I mean, Justin, what do you feel about interim titles? They're kind of weird, aren't they?
I mean, Justin Gaethje, when he was the interim champion, he didn't even put his belt around his waist because he's like, I'm not the real champ. Like interim champion is like, oh, congratulations, you're the best second place guy. Like as an athlete, as a competitor, I don't really care for interim champions. And again, holding up. And here's the thing, guys, which that I think, and you guys may agree, may not. If you're the featherweight champion and you vacate your belt and you go and win the lightweight champion, you're still in my eyes the double champ. You've been the champion of two weight classes.
Sure.
You go up to welterweight, you're the triple champ. You don't even
Yep.
have to hold all three of them because there again, just like Huzaifa said, if I am the lightweight champ, or if I'm going up and I challenge for the lightweight belt, I'm the featherweight champion. I go up and challenge for the lightweight belt. I win, but I say break my nose or break my arm or break my hand. Now I have a 6-month rehab. Now I'm holding up two divisions, and now guys are fighting for the interim, and now they want to. Everyone's fighting for the who's in second place here. When you get injured as the champion, okay, now like if you're a champion of one division and you get injured, all right, now we can have an interim belt while you're healing. But to do two interim belts because you're holding the main championship for both, I think it's just holding up the division just way too much. And if you want to hold up one division because you're truly the champion, I can get behind that. But holding up 2 or 3 divisions is just ludicrous, and it's not fair to the other fighters.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Think about Alex Pereira. He's a double champ in my mind. I don't even think about it. It doesn't matter that he didn't hold the belt simultaneously. It's almost irrelevant. By the way, one other thing Western has posted too. I like Poirier's chances against Topuria. So this is another fight that is being rumored. Now, I heard this. I heard even MMA Guru talk about this and saying that he thinks that this would be a perfect fight for Poirier's last fight. Go against Topuria. I don't know. I mean, Justin, I'd love to get your thoughts. Do you think that Poirier wants this fight for his last fight? He said legends only. I don't know if we consider, even though Topuria is amazing and a champ and has done incredible things, he's still relatively young in the game. I don't think that's what Poirier meant when he said legends only. I was thinking more like Max Holloway or something along those lines. But do you think Poirier, if the money is right, would want to take on Topuria for his final fight?
I mean, at the end of the day, money talks. And, you can say, like, there's a lot of things that I say that I don't want, but, like, this bare knuckle fight, man, it's not like my ideal situation to go in there and get my face and my hand and my nose broken. But when the promoter called and we started talking numbers, Well, now that kind of motivated me a little bit more to change my thought. And as with any athlete, especially Poirier coming to the end of his career, he has a great hot sauce, and I'm sure he's going to make a lot of money off that. If you guys haven't tried Dustin Poirier's hot sauce, it's really, really good. It's made in Canada, and I didn't really care that it was made in Canada. I would wish it would have been a U.S. based company, but regardless of that, it's an incredible hot sauce. But if it's his last fight, that could be his last big payday, and he's gonna want that $1 million payday to ride off in the sunset. And I think someone like fighting like Topuria, he's gonna need money like that. Now, when he talks about legends only, I mean, dude, there's incredible matchups. I mean, Justin Gaethje, Poirier 3. You got Max Holloway, Poirier. I don't know if that'd be two. Excuse me, 2 or 3. What about Volkanovski, Poirier? Like, we're talking about guys, when he talks about legends, he talks about guys that not have only been there, but been there and done that. And man, I can come up with 5, 6 guys that I think he'd match up really well against for an action-packed fight. And I don't think I'm not saying favorable fight. I'm saying
Yeah.
action-packed fight. We have to
Yes.
highlight Justin Gaethje again, Max Holloway coming off a lot. There's a lot of great legends that I'd love to see him face. And coming up, and I just hate being that older guy. Me being 35, fighting guys that are in their early 20s, mid 20s is just, man, it's just tough. We physically, and it's not mental, it's not our technique, it's not our skill, it's just our body isn't as fast. We don't recover the same as what we did when we were 20s. So for him to come up and face a young, I think Tapori's like 28 years old, like, he's young, man. He's still
Yeah.
recovering. He still has that high testosterone to help him recover. And the thing is, still getting better. That's just, it's not a matchup I want to see. If Dustin Poirier decides to take that matchup, I'll support him in any decision he does. It's just not a matchup I want to see. I would hate for Poirier to go out there and get starched. Not saying he can't win. Of course he can win, but I would hate for something to happen, as in using Poirier as a stepping stone to show how good Poirier really is.
I agree. Javier Mendez, just as an aside, said in an interview yesterday that he thinks Dustin wins that fight. So for what it's worth, Javier Mendez, legendary coach in the game, he says Dustin Poirier has the best boxing in the entire UFC. That's his take. So we shall see. But anyways, the point is, this is super exciting. And there's more reasons why this is exciting that we're going to touch upon later, namely that Ilia Topuria and Paddy Pimblett are now finally in the same division, and maybe we can see that beef reconciled once and for all. But I digress. Let's move on to the next big announcement. Now that the title is vacant in the featherweight division, we've got Volkanovski back in the title mix against Diego Lopes. A lot of people were expecting the Volkanovski versus Topuria rematch. Apparently, this is happening instead. This is the way this whole thing has worked out to me is incredible. I'm more excited for this fight. Actually, no, I am. I'm 100% more excited for this fight than seeing the rematch of Volkanovski versus Topuria. I felt like Topuria was likely going to get the better of him again. That could be wrong, of course, but that's what I felt. This is a fresh matchup, very exciting. Diego Lopes is one of the most exciting fighters in the game, but it also gives Volkanovski an opportunity to reclaim the title, and maybe if he plans to retire at some point in the future, I don't know. I just think it's a cool story either way. What do you think of this?
You know what? I really like this matchup. I'm going to tell you why. It's because on our show for the last couple weeks, we talk about this rinse and reuse and recycle kind of mentality in all these divisions. But now we're getting fresh faces in the featherweight division. We're getting Topuria, who I mean he's a fresh face in my opinion. Diego Lopes now challenging Volkanovski. Now we have another fresh face, and Diego's earned his way. Fought Dan Ige in a knockout grind out fight. Me being a teammate with Dan Ige, man, what a legend! Show up on less than 24-hour notice, but we're getting fresh faces, man, and that's what the UFC needs, and that's not only what the featherweight division needs, but the bantamweight division needs it, the welterweight. I mean, all the divisions right now. Look at the lightweight, dude. You have Topuria, Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje, Max Holloway, and you've seen all these guys, and they're fighting, and they fought so many times that they're doing 3 fights against each other now, and as exciting as these fights are, and they are incredibly exciting, it's like, all right, it's time to get some new blood in here. And Diego Lopes coming up and challenging Alexander Volkanovski, arguably one of the greatest featherweights of all time, definitely in the top 5. And Diego Lopes has a chance to earn his respect in the division. And is this gonna be a title fight? I assume it is.
Yeah. It's for the titles, for the
And
vacant
I mean,
title.
now we get new blood in the division. Volkanovski has a chance to show why he's the greatest of all time, and Diego Lopes has a chance to dethrone arguably the great. Like, I just love putting new, fresh faces, and it's not just
Same.
guys that they're like, hey, well, this guy's from one champion. And that's what I hate what they did with like the one championship guys. Like, oh, this guy's an incredible kickboxer. We're bringing him over. He gets a challenge match, or he gets a title fight right away. It just happened in the 125 division.
Yeah.
And, you know, these guys are getting decimated. Diego Lopes has earned his spot for this fight. He has beaten guys that are who's. Again, I go back to Dan Egan. I know it was on short notice, but it was an incredible performance. Me and Diego both fought. Gavin Tucker, black belt from Canada, incredible kickboxer. Diego Lopes made him look like a child. And the respect I have for Gavin Tucker for sharing, you know, we fought for 15 minutes. He finished me in like the last minute of our fight. Like the respect I have for Gavin Tucker to see him go out there and get finished as fast as he did by Diego Lopes, that tells me Diego Lopes is something special and he's earned this spot for this title fight.
Right on. Here we go. Okay, we got a couple comments I want to highlight real quick. Robert, greetings from Sweden. Very cool. I've been to
Thank you, Robert.
I've been to Stockholm a bunch of times. Love Sweden. It's amazing. He also says Mavzar deserves that title shot. He already beat Lopez. Ooh, when he just beat Aljamain Sterling. Yeah, he's also up in the mix too. We'll see what. Wait, isn't Evlor? Wait, Mavzar Evloev, is he? Didn't he fight Aljo? Yeah, he fought him at featherweight. Yeah. So he's in the mix too. It was a close fight. It was a close fight. Arguably, Aljo won. He beat Aljo. Yeah, he beat Aljo, but it was a very, very close fight. But yeah,
again, bringing fresh faces to the division. This is like, you know what's crazy is the only matchup I know of Mosvar is when he fought Aljo, and I couldn't even remember who won the fight. So, I mean, he's still earning his way in, and I think with that win over Aljo, that he needs to be given some respect too. But it's all about fresh faces in the division, and I'd love to see this guy there at the top.
Okay, we got 3 other big fights that we're going to talk about. I am going to go next to, because I know you got to go. I'm going to go next to number 5. This is the last one. This is the one that I'm most excited about. It's not even for a title. I just have to be honest. This is exciting to me. They finally announced it. Remember, we did a video about Paddy Pimblett versus Michael Chandler like weeks or months ago because there was a couple posts. Paddy Pimblett made that video, hey, I'll see you at the top. And then they both denied, no, this is not a real fight. This is fake news. Paddy Pimblett's like, nah, I was never even, I don't know. He just basically denied it. But apparently this is now official and it's happening on April 12th, I believe. UFC 314 is stacked. It's crazy. But anyways, I already gave my thoughts on the video I made Wednesday night, and I'll jump into my thoughts again. But I am so excited for this fight. Justin, what's your takeaway from this?
You know what? We've talked about this. I'm going to make a video about this fight. You know, I personally, I think this is an incredible fight for Paddy Pimblett because, for one, I'll be honest, he's expected to lose. I don't think that there's any way Paddy's really has a chance to beat Chandler. Like, you know, I know Chandler. Wow. I know he's struggled in the UFC, but dude, I mean, he's fighting all former champs. You know, and he's fighting him tough too. I think Paddy Pimblett's biting off a little bit more than he can chew, but with the chance that I'm wrong. He's going to skyrocket to the top of the division. And if he loses, it's not that big of a deal. He's losing to Michael Chandler. And I'll be honest, I don't think Mike Chandler gets the respect he deserves in the division because of, he loses. He's like, I think his record's like 2-4. But guys, look at who he's fought. It's not like he's fighting, you know, these up and coming chumps that are beating him. He's fighting all former champs. You know, he just fought Charles Oliveira. He fought, he beat Tony Ferguson. Let me think who else he's fought. Justin Gaethje, which was just a freaking one of the best fights I've ever seen. Dustin Poirier. I mean, name some off that other guys he's lost to. Who else has he lost to?
No, I think you named everybody. Dustin Poirier.
I only named 3. He has 4 losses.
Charles Oliveira twice.
Oh, okay. So every loss he's had in the UFC is to a former champion. Now, you know, Paddy is not champ in my mind yet, and Paddy's growing on me. Don't get me wrong, but he's not champion caliber yet. So this is gonna be the first time. And Tony Ferguson, obviously, he beat Tony Ferguson as well, and Tony was kind of on his downfall. But regardless, this is not a championship caliber fight that Mike Chandler is used to. I give Mike a huge advantage in every aspect of this game. But if Paddy goes in there and proves me wrong and decimates Mike Chandler like he says and thinks he can do, I mean, the whole lightweight division is going to be shaken up. And honestly, Michael Chandler loses to Paddy Pimblett, he might be looking for a job at another organization.
But so that's why this fight is so exciting for me, because again, the stakes, I've talked about this many times. This could be Paddy Pimblett's real launch pad into the upper echelon of the lightweight division. I mean, imagine if he gets a definitive victory, who knows? He could even be ranked top 5. I mean, it's possible, maybe top 6, top 7, but top 5. I mean, that's insane. And also, think about how much hate Paddy's gotten. So many people have said he's terrible, he sucks. I don't think that's true. I actually think he's a very good fighter. Now, you talk about this matchup versus Michael Chandler. I don't have the expertise to make a valid prediction yet at this point, but I do believe that Paddy overall, and I've heard a lot of other fighters say that he's very underrated, and he's actually a tremendously skilled fighter. And just on that basis, plus the fact that he's so young, plus he's going to fight smart, and I think he knows this is his shot to catapult his career if he can get a good victory. I don't know. I just feel like he's going to place such a high level of importance on this training camp. He's going to take it extremely seriously. I think Paddy's going to pull it off, but that's just a very, very, very cursory overview of this fight and just a very simple prediction. But I do hope he wins because, my God, it just makes the sport fun. It just makes the sport fun.
I'll be honest. I hope he does too. You know, Mike Chandler's at the end of his career. Again, he loses to Paddy Pimblett. He's looking for a job in another organization. But here, you said it in the fight camp. He's like, I hope he takes this fight really serious and has a very serious fight camp understanding. Now, when you want to be the champ, you don't take fight camp serious. You take life serious. You don't go up to 230 pounds and look like a piece of shit. You're consistently building your craft, whether it's wrestling, grappling, boxing. You don't get better in your fight camps. Your fight camps are when you're game planning for a set opponent and what you're going to do with that opponent. You get better in between. Robert Follis, coach at Extreme Couture, unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago, but talked about the music in MMA is between the notes. All right. The music in MMA is between the music notes. It's not the notes. It's the in between the notes. So it's in between the fight camps is when you're getting better, when you're really perfecting your craft. And, Paddy coming into the UFC, I mean, he takes fight camp really serious, but in between camps, he is getting up to over 200 pounds. He's sloppy. He's not, but now he has a real task in front of him. And maybe, and he's a lot more serious in his interviews too. So I'm seeing a lot of maturity in Paddy Pimblett, and I'm really hoping that he takes this head on. And over the last, year, 2 years that he's been taking, time between his fight camps to perfect, because, on paper right now, he's not going to be stronger than Michael Chandler. He's not going to be I don't think he's going to be able to out wrestle Michael Chandler. Charles Oliveira, arguably one of the greatest submissions experts in the lightweight division, the history of the lightweight division. I'm not saying the greatest, but he's definitely up there. He's subbed so many great guys. He couldn't sub Chandler. Paddy's not going to be able to sub Chandler. Now, could Paddy keep him at range and pick him apart? Sure. But if Paddy gets hit by one of those big looping left hooks or a big looping overhand, it might be a quick night.
It's wild. Now, just to go back to what you mentioned about him not taking camp seriously or eating to these crazy levels where he blows up. I used to always be, now I don't want to say critical, but I used to have my reservations about him. I'm like, how can you be taking this sport seriously if you're doing that to your body over and over? It just doesn't make sense. Just from that basis alone, I didn't see him having a bright future, but it does appear as though he's now taking it more seriously. He's staying in shape. He hasn't blown up to those same gargantuan levels. So I hope this is a sign that he will be taking this seriously. Okay.
One more thing on that note. I'll stay 2 minutes after, but one more thing on that note is your career in the UFC, for the most part, is only going to be a couple of years. We'll say 5 years. And there are guys that are anomalies that go 10 years and 12 years, and that's like John Jones and, Anderson Silva, who've just had these incredible careers. But the average fighter in the UFC is probably 2 to 3 years, guys. Like, you got to understand this. So when you have this opportunity to fight at the top level, and you look at Paddy Pimblett, who, 5 years, 8 years, like, just dedicate those 5 years to your craft. You're in the UFC, just do everything you can to make yourself the best. And if he turns this corner, he can really be something in the future.
I agree. Okay, real quick before you go, we got, I think somebody new, Izzy Slots. That's a funny name. I don't know who he's talking about. It says your mom's about fresh faces. I don't know who he's referring to. Chandler barely loses those fights and Paddy barely wins. That's a fair point. And Izzy Slots says, I bet you hope he takes it head on. Not sure what that means. Okay. And then MGAL4 Productions says,
I'm willing to bet that Izzy Slots is a Sean Strickland fan, and he's talking shit to me on the stream because of that.
Oh, you think? I don't know. Okay, possibly.
That's the only thing
I see. Yeah, about fresh faces, because you were talking about fresh faces. Okay. Well, anyways, if you're talking smack, I guess it is what it is. Anyways, all right, Justin, do you got to bounce?
Yeah, I got to go. I got a client right now. Appreciate it. Sorry I had to cut off. This is the only time he could do it, though, today.
Okay, so I will finish off the show. We got a couple of topics. Thanks, Justin. We'll see you next time.
I appreciate you guys.
And all right, take it easy. Okay, there's a couple other things that I want. Actually, one fight in particular. I did talk about this before, but I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on this. So let me know in the live chat what you guys think. But Belal Muhammad versus Della Maddalena. I think this is a very exciting fight too. Now, obviously, we are all disappointed that we're not going to have Belal versus Shavkat Rakhmonov. But this is going to be interesting. I think Della has a lot of hype, and people have given him a ton of props for his boxing, his very clean striking. So I'm curious to see what Belal can do against him with his obviously grappling heavy style. And also, Belal's boxing didn't look too bad. I know he was making those comments in the last fight that he can box like Canelo or something, but hey, his boxing was pretty good. I think he outstruck Leon, which was pretty crazy. Obviously, it's because of the threat of the takedown, but it was impressive nonetheless. So I'm excited to see this fight. Let's see what people are saying. Jack is going to knock him out. Whoa, that would be wild. That would be wild. Now, I'll tell you what would be kind of cool if Belal loses, if Belal does get knocked out, whatever it may be. He's talking about moving up to middleweight. And I, for one, would love to see that. I'd love to see Belal move up to middleweight so Islam can vacate the title. I guess now he's not going to be a double champ, but he'll be able to vacate the title, move up to welterweight, and try and get the belt in the welterweight division. I really want that to happen. I know that Islam wants that to happen. I know that Islam does not want to fight Ilia or other folks who are moving up from a lower weight class. He wants to move up and take on bigger challenges. So that would be one interesting thing if Belal did lose. But this is a great fight. Anyways, the point is all of these announcements, I think that the UFC just made, and all of the changes that are taking place right now, I think it's going to be all net positive. But the thing, once again, that I'm most excited about after all of these announcements is somehow a non-title fight, Paddy the Baddy versus Michael Chandler. One last thing I'll say, I mentioned this in one of my Hamzat videos. I think one of the best things about this sport, and something that as fans we need to really appreciate and take heed of, is when we get these big moments where we finally get to see a fighter on this trajectory with a lot of hype and who's finally getting that shot to rise to greatness, to rise to the top. I said this in the video too about Hamzat finally taking on Dricus for the belt, how it's something that we should all celebrate and be excited about. Whether or not you're rooting for Dricus or Hamzat, it's an exciting moment. It's a time where we're going to see somebody either be proved right or wrong in his take and fervent belief that he is the greatest fighter on the planet, the greatest wrestler the UFC has ever seen. So we shall see, and it answers those questions, and that's what's so exciting about the sport. Likewise, Paddy the Baddy. Now, this is not a title shot, but this is probably his first big test. Not to say that King Green wasn't a big test, not to say that some of his other fights weren't a big test, but this is a test that I think the public in general is going to gather around and say, if you can pull this off, most people, there will be some haters that will still exist that say, oh, Chandler's not that good, something like that, right? But most people will say, if he can pull this off and get this victory, Paddy's for real. This will be a vindicating fight if he can pull off the victory. That's so exciting. And then somebody with that much buzz and that much fanfare rising to the top, it just makes the sport amazing. So anyways, I can't wait. Oh yeah, Robert says a different opinion. He thinks that Belal will win 50-45. God, if I'm pressed at this point to give a prediction, I'm probably predicting Belal, but let's see what happens. And even if Belal wins, maybe he'll vacate and move up anyways. So we shall see. All right, we're going to end the show, guys, with some fun comments. I'm going to pull them up here. And we are going to, let's see here. We got a couple of funny ones that we've been receiving. So the channel's been growing a lot. Here, I'm going to pop these into Google Slides so we can share all this. So the reason why we started doing this segment is the channel's been growing a lot in the last month. Basically, we've more than doubled, or we almost tripled our subscriber base, which is wild. And because we've been working on this channel for 2 years, and then all of a sudden we're having this explosive growth, which is amazing, and we are so grateful for. And we want to thank you guys, obviously, because you guys are the reason why it's growing. People are subscribing and jumping on the bandwagon. But anyways, with that has come a barrage of comments, some of them pretty funny, and we're going to be highlighting these every week. So let me just get these up here for you guys. Give me 1 second. We already had a few picked out. I had some funny responses too. I don't think any of the guys who actually left these comments are on the stream right now, but hold on. You guys can laugh with me. Here we go. 1 second. 2 more. I'm going to pop them up here. All right. And let us know too, guys, is there anything else you want to see from our show and from our live streams? Do you want another day? That's something that we've been thinking about as well. Maybe adding in another show on Wednesdays, or does Monday and Friday seem an ample opportunity for us to discuss what's really going on in the sport. Okay, let's check it out. So we only got 4 comments here that we're going to explore and examine. All right, here we go. This is ridiculous. Okay, so first of all, you a dumbass. Okay, well, pretty straightforward. I don't have much of a reply. Oh, what's the best clapper? Says great show. Thank you. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, this was really fun. All right, so if you guys did not see this, I made a video last night. It's kind of getting a fair amount of views for our channel. I think it just passed 2,000. So this was about the Dricus Ariel beef, and I was talking about the fact that Ariel just had Dricus back on the show after not having him on for some time. Hold on, let me change the view here 1 second. We're gonna go like this, so I'm a little bigger. So he just had him come back on. I wasn't sure if Dricus was ever gonna return to the show, but he did, and there was a lot of tension there. And I rehashed the entire story of where the beef began between these two, where Dricus made those comments about being an African champ, and Izzy got upset and all that stuff. So I was retelling the story, and this is what this guy's comment was. He says, "Oh, by the way, I was talking about this notion of." Okay, I made the point that I can understand why maybe people felt like his comments about being an African champ were, because it's a little tough, and if you can put yourself in that position where it resonates specifically with you and your story, I think it sheds a little bit more light on it. So this is what I said. I said, not saying it's not true, but if somebody, namely a British person, let's say moved to India and they had a child, 2 British-born, I'm saying white British parents, and they had a child grow up in India, and then the kid grew up, became an athlete, and said, "Hey, I'm the real Indian. But you know what I'm saying? I'm the true Indian champion, right?" I'm not saying that wouldn't make him Indian because he was born there, he grew up there. That's his national identity. I totally get that. But my point was, whether it's right or wrong, I'm not saying one way or the other, but it would feel funny to like Indian people. Not that we would be offended by any means, but it's just a funny thing because we're so used to, there's certain countries like India, where I'm from, where it's like when you say you're Indian, it's usually the implication is not that you immigrated there and then became a citizen, it's that your family's from there. You're Indian ethnically. So anyways, now I made that point. Now this is his comment. He goes, "You were born in America and you call yourself Indian instead of American." That's not true. I never said that. So again, hilarious comment. Of course, spelled course wrong. "You would not understand what Dickus, he called him, is going through. He is a South African born in South Africa and is proud to be a patriot for his African heritage. He is not a bicultural weirdo like you were programmed to believe," spelling mistake again, "that you are just that you are." Okay, what? "Just be a American should be an American man, and you would understand too." Okay, 2 periods. Now, this was my response. I thought it was pretty funny. "I love being a weirdo." True. "Also, this comment is completely devoid of logic and reason. Identity can be multifaceted depending on whether you are talking about nationality, culture, ideology, etc. So I don't call myself Indian over American or vice versa. It's just I am my national identity. I am proud to be an American. I love this country. I live here because I love it. And it's just a dichotomy between genetics and nationality. Both are equally valid and true." Anyways, I thought that was a pretty good response. But yeah, like we get comments like this now that just don't make any sense. I'm not calling myself Indian instead of American. I am American. I also am Indian. It's just like we describe ourselves in multiple ways. You could describe based on your political ideology, your profession, whatever. So I don't know. I'm going on too much about this comment. "Bring back Mike Shinoda hairstyle. Bring back the Mike." What's that? What's the Mike Shinoda hairstyle? Oh, Robert wants to see interview with fighters. We can do more of that because Justin obviously trains at Extreme Couture, so we have access to fighters. We've done a couple, but we will definitely do more. Wednesday show would be cool. Okay. Let me talk to Justin about that. Let's see if we can make that happen schedule-wise. All right, another fun comment. Okay. Oh, I have a response to this, but it didn't get posted. I'll read you the response. He goes, "I don't think you need to worry about Drake." Because I said in the video, if Drake sees this, I hope he's not upset, blah, blah, blah. And then this guy goes, who is this? Lewis Reynolds. "I don't think you need to worry about Drake seeing this. I'm wondering how the hell this video ended up in my algorithm. Don't quit your day job, bro." Wait, I got to read you guys my comment because I thought it was pretty funny. 1 second. Where is it? I don't think, hold on. Oh, I have responded. Hold on. I'm going to find it. 1 second. I don't think. Here, I found it. Okay, look. So he goes, "I don't think you need to worry about Drickus seeing this, blah, blah, blah." I go, "Love you too. Also, it's not your algorithm. It's Google's proprietary algorithm. Perhaps what you meant to say is, how did it end up in your feed? Am I right? And then I said, good luck with your day job. It's too fun. It's too fun to respond to these. I can't help it. And then last one, who the F is that guy? And I mean, what can I say? That's actually hilarious. We all love that quote. Anyways, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Great show, and Wednesday show, GOAT. Okay, Andrew, you said you want a show on Wednesday as well. All right, let me talk to Justin and let's see what we can work out. I'd love to do it. I think it's fun. We enjoy it. You thought I was Tunisian. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that is close to our heritage as well. But yeah, I get Middle Eastern a lot. I get Turkish a lot. When I'm in South America, a lot of people think I'm like Brazilian, Argentinian. I kind of blend in, unless I go to Sweden. Then I don't blend in. Anyways, all right. Thank you guys so much. Please like this video if you did enjoy the show today. It really goes a long way. It helps us out tremendously. And make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so yet, if you want to catch up with the regular shows. On top of that, we're releasing videos every day on the daily. Lots of videos, namely, the most recent one was that one about the Drinkers versus Aerial Beef. So check out our videos. We are full in. We love this channel. We love this sport. We love this game. So we are here for it, to discuss it and talk it over with you guys. So thank you guys so much for joining. MGal4 Production says, Belal will start off good, but we'll get KO'd at some point. Interesting. I guess we shall see. But anyways, thank you guys so much, and we will see you in the next episode. Take it easy.